So today, we're going to be talking about why trying to get motivated isn't the path to becoming an academic weapon and giving you those top grades that you want. I know that sounds backwards in a sense. All your life, people have told you that you need to be more motivated. Trying to force motivation before studying actually makes studying harder and less sustainable. Relying on motivation to study is what I like to call being motivation dependent, and it's a trap that most students fall into. Why? Because motivation isn't steady. It changes based on things you can control. Things like how much sleep you got last night. It affects your motivation. What your parents said to you this morning, or how your mood is this morning when waking up, it affects your motivation. Whether you saw your friend post their new mock exams or their top grades on WhatsApp status, it affects your motivation. So if your ability to study depends on your motivation, then it means your ability to study or your study mechanism is going to be unstable. So some days you will do it, some days you can't, and over time, this doesn't just make you inconsistent, it burns you out. It's called willpower depletion. When you constantly rely on motivation and willpower to push through barriers, to push through examples like laziness, distraction, tiredness, eventually you run out of willpower. And that is what burnout actually is. Hi, my name is Adigbadu David, and I'm the CEO of the Branch Educational Consult, a company set aside to help students become the best they can be in their academics with the right techniques and the right methods to have retention and make learning effective and transferable into the real world without sacrificing a lot of their time, so they can have time to do things that interest them. In this video, here's how we will break it down. First, I will explain why trying to get motivated actually trains your brain in the wrong way. Next, we'll cover the 3-circuit system, showing how your brain chooses between studying and distractions, plus why most students rely on the wrong circuit. Finally, I will share a 4-step activation sequence that you can use immediately to switch your brain to focus on studying and not bank on motivation. Let's go. Okay, so let us start by understanding what is happening when you rely on motivation to study, like groundwork. I want you to imagine your study session like this. You have a goal. Let us say the goal is to study chemistry for 2 hours, for example. So between you and that goal, there are barriers. Your goal, this is you, this is the goal. The barrier can be laziness, you just don't feel like it. It can be distractions, your phone is right beside you. TikTok is calling you, Instagram, there's this notification that came from WhatsApp. The barrier can be tiredness. Let's say you didn't sleep well last night, or your brain still feels foggy. When you are motivation dependent, what you use to push through these barriers is motivation. So you hype yourself, you use that energy for motivation to fight laziness, to resist distractions, to overcome tiredness, to want to study. And it works for a little while. Motivation comes from 2 different sources. Sometimes it is external motivation, the things outside of you that pushes you to study. Maybe your parents promised you to buy something if you pass, or maybe you are competing with your friends to see who scores the highest score, or you are afraid of the shame of failing, or you want to get into the university of your dreams to study the course you want. Those things are extrinsic motivators and they fluctuate. Reason why? What happens when your parents stop promising you rewards? Or what happens when your friends drop out of the competition? Or the going becomes tough, and when shame between your friends isn't enough drive anymore. So your motivation drops and suddenly you can't study anymore. Sometimes, or the second source for motivation is intrinsic motivation, the things inside of you. Let us say maybe you enjoy studying the subject, or you have a sense of purpose. You want to be a doctor someday, you want to be an engineer someday, and so studying is the route to be achieving that purpose you have. The beauty of this type of motivation is that it is more stable, but it can still fluctuate. For example, to become the doctor you want, you have to go through physics you don't like. So what happens when you are having a bad day or your sense of purpose feels distant? What happens when you study for 3 hours but you still don't understand the concept, so you feel frustrated? your motivation will still drop. And if your ability to study depends on either extrinsic motivation or an intrinsic motivation, studying becomes inconsistent. The way you understand or the way you beat this cycle is by learning how your brain makes decisions. Because it turns out there are 3 different circuits in your brain that compete for control. And whichever circuit is strongest at any given moment determines whether you study or you scroll through your phone. So the first thing we'll be talking about is the 3 circuits that help you in decision making. Alright, so neuroscience research has shown us that your brain doesn't make decisions on one unified thing. So different parts of the brain are constantly competing for control over your behavior. And so when it comes to studying versus procrastinating, or any important thing versus procrastinating, there are 3 major circuits involved. I'm calling them the comfort circuit, the pressure circuit, and the choice circuit. Understanding which one is active at any given moment is the key to becoming motivation enhanced. So let us break down each one. Circuit 1, the comfort circuit. This is your brain's default mode. It's the entire job of your brain to keep you comfortable and safe. Your brain seeks pleasures, avoids discomfort, save up energy. So when your comfort circuit is in control, you choose the easiest option. So you choose scrolling Instagram over studying physics or chemistry or that organic chemistry that you did so much. You will choose Netflix over solving past questions. You will choose staying in bed over waking up early before your family members so you can study and cover up. Now, this circuit isn't evil. It's evolved to keep you alive. So back when humans were hunting and gathering, saving up energy was important. So what your brain learned was do the minimum to survive and avoid discomfort. But in your studying routine, you don't want to survive, you want to excel. So this circuit is working against you because studying is uncomfortable. It requires energy, focus. Your comfort circuit is saying, let us do something instead. Let us check our phone. And because this is something that has developed over generations before you were born, your comfort circuit is your default. And if you don't actively override it, it will control your behavior automatically. Let us look at it in practice. For example, let us say a student named Joy decides to study every evening after their dinner. So after she's done, she sits on a table and says, let me check my phone for 5 minutes. Before you know it, she's on TikTok, she's on YouTube, and she has been scrolling for over 2 hours. That's her comfort circuit in control. Her brain was seeking the easy, low effort pleasure, and scrolling is always going to be better than studying. And that's why our brain defaulted to that. This will lead us to the second circuit, which is the pressure circuit. Now, this is the circuit that activates when there are external pressures, deadlines, fear, competition, urgency. So the pressure circuit is why you can cram all night before an exam. It's why you can solve past questions 2 weeks before JAMB. It's why you can suddenly become hyper-focused when your parents walk into the room and ask, have you studied today? When the pressure circuit activates, stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and your brain enters an heightened state. And suddenly you will have energy. But this is a false energy. This circuit is incredibly powerful. And that's why so many Nigerian students rely on it. They wait until the pressure is high enough to activate the circuit, and they use that pressure to push through the study. The pressure circuit can get you that 300 plus, but it is not sustainable. Running on stress hormones constantly exhausts your body, and over time you would need more and more pressure to activate the same level of focus. It's like someone who uses heroin. The more they use, the more quantity they need to feel that high. And that's why so many students, they start 2 weeks before the exam, and before you know it, it's a day before the exam, 3 days before the exam. Only when the exam is tomorrow, before they then generate enough pressure to activate the circuit. So banking on the pressure circuit to study is sacrificing your now without having anything left for the future. That's why so many students does well in UTME. But when they get to Post-UTME 100 level, They stumble because they haven't built a foundation strong enough to carry them further. I know what you are saying. I want the 300 plus, right? Yes, getting admission is important, but as well as sustaining the admission. Because becoming an academic weapon is not about just facing the UTME and scaling it through. It's about being an academic weapon all through. So, if the comfort circuit makes you procrastinate and the pressure circuit burns you out, how do successful students study consistently without motivation? The secret is this: they use the third circuit, which is the choice circuit. This is a circuit that activates when you make a deliberate, conscious decision, not on how you feel or external pressure or motivation. You study because you have chosen to study. Here's where the difference is. The choice circuit is not stronger than your comfort circuit or the pressure circuit by default. But the choice circuit can be trained. So the more you activate it, the more stronger it gets. This is the secret of top students, because over time, they have made the choice circuit to become their default state. And that is what I mean by motivation enhanced. So you have trained your choice circuit to be strong enough that when you want to study, it will override your comfort circuit, it will override your pressure circuit. That is the only thing you can think of. I'm going to share with you how to activate the choice circuit in real time, especially when comfort circuit is screaming at you to pick up that phone and scroll for TikTok or Instagram. This is a 4 steps method, which I like to call the activation sequence, which you would implement step by step to make you get used to the choice circuit, and then subsequently it becomes your default. And it only takes about 60 seconds thereabout to run through these 4 steps anytime you want to study, and you don't have to bank on motivation for study. Step 1, name the state that you are fighting against at that moment. You remember you have your choice, but there is the comfort circuit, there is the pressure circuit, and the first step is identifying which circuit is currently in control. What we do most of the time is that we respond in default, but by labeling it out in a book or in your head. So when you sit down to study and you feel that resistance, that I don't want to do this, you identify, is it my comfort circuit that is active right now, or is it my pressure circuit? I'm waiting for pressure to push me to study. It's like, am I waiting for, do I want to scroll Instagram now? That is comfort. Am I waiting for 2 weeks before the exam? That is pressure. And you are not judging it. That's important. We are just naming it. So why does this work? Because when you label something, you activate your prefrontal cortex. You are using the rational decision-making part of your brain. And when your prefrontal cortex is active, you are taking a choice. I once worked with this student when he was preparing for JAMB 2025. And it was a coaching session. Anytime he tried to study, he felt the urge to pick up his phone and swipe for Instagram. What most people say is, uninstall Instagram. What I want you to know is this: if you uninstall Instagram, you will find another comfort method to do. It's that simple. And so it will feel the urge, and instead of acting on it immediately, it would say, my comfort circuit wants me to check Instagram right now. And so that pause, that 1 second of awareness, was what allowed him to make a conscious choice. That singular pause, that being aware in his book, allowed him to be able to activate his prefrontal cortex into action. Step 2 is accepting without action. So now you have named the state, you have identified if it's your comfort circuit or your pressure circuit that is acting. The crucial part is that you accept the feeling without obeying it. The mistake, or where students mess up generally, is that they think accepting a feeling means acting on it. So they have the comfort circuit come up and says, I feel lazy, so I must rest. I feel distracted, so I must check my phone. They don't know that accepting it and obeying it is 2 different things. I feel lazy is accepting it. Is obeying it, I need to rest. You can accept you feel lazy right now, but that laziness is a feeling. You can decide to choose to study. So the phrase I like to teach students is this: I feel X and I am going to do Y. Not but not so, not therefore. And I feel lazy and I am going to study. I feel distracted and I am going to focus on this topic. I feel like I don't feel like reading, but I'm going to do it anyway. Written down. Once you catch that feeling popping up your head, open up your jotter. I feel X and I'm going to do this. Because what you are doing is you are not trying to change the feeling. Trying to change the feeling is hard. It requires motivation, which you don't have at the moment. Instead, you are choosing to have despite the feeling. You are not obeying the feeling. You are switching from comfort circuit, which says, I feel lazy, so I need to rest, to a choice circuit, which says, I feel lazy, and I'm going to study anyway. The step 3 is to micro commit. So we have named the state, we have accepted the feeling without obeying it, we are making a choice. Next, you need to start acting on that choice. So your brain is looking at studying chemistry for 2 hours, and the comfort circuit is screaming, that is too much. That is uncomfortable. Let's not do this. Let's just pull TikTok for like 20 minutes. So you don't start because 2 hours is a lot. My advice is start with the smallest possible action. This is what I like to call micro committing. You are not committing to study for 2 hours. You are committing to open up the book. That will take less than a minute. You are committing to, I'm just going to read the next subsection. You are committing to, I'm just going to solve 10 past questions or 2 past questions. You are committed to, I'm just going to read the first paragraph. I'm just going to write the title on my notes. I'm just going to listen to 2 voice notes in the Telegram group where I am actively preparing for JAMB or WAEC or whatever. I'm just going to sit on my desk and that's it. You are not committing to the 2 hours or the 3 hours or those dream 6 hours that you saw on YouTube. You are committing to the first micro action, because the person that studied 6 hours has been doing this for a while. You are just trying to build up momentum. Because if you don't, your comfort circuit will resist tiny actions. It will resist the big uncomfortable tasks, but your comfort circuit cannot resist the tiny actions, because opening your textbook is not so stressful. Like solving 2 past questions is not so stressful. Sitting down is not so stressful. I'm sitting down and there is no problem. So the next stage or the next step is, after you have named it, you have accepted, you have micro committed. Now you are studying, you want to build up evidences of the fact that you can do this. And it means that at the beginning it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be very uncomfortable. You want to gather evidence that your choice circuit can overpower your comfort circuit and your pressure circuit. So how do you do this? Every few minutes, you check in with yourself and notice what you are doing. Most times, this happens to me a lot when I'm so stressed. I just tell to myself, I've studied for 20 minutes so far. I've completed 1 topic, or I've just done 3 past questions. I can continue. By showing your brain, because most times when we micro commit, we don't show our brain what we have done. You are showing your brain the evidence of what you have done. And so once you notice yourself successfully acting without motivation, your brain updates its beliefs. It learns, oh, I can even study when I don't feel like it, or I don't need motivation to act. I've studied for 30 minutes. Why can't I go for 1 hour? And so the more evidence you stack, the more stronger your choice circuit becomes. And eventually, you become like the top students who don't default to their comfort circuit or their pressure circuit. They default to their choice circuit. And this is also why motivation dependence is also damaging. So when you only study when you feel like studying, when you are motivated, you are telling your brain, I need motivation to act. So you are gathering evidences that support that belief. And so the more you depend on motivation, the more and more your brain stacks up evidence that you can't study without motivation. But when you study without motivation, you act through the choice circuit. You are gathering an opposite evidence. And the more, it's like a scale. Right now, you have more evidence of choice circuit. The more evidences you pick up, the more you tip over the scale. At first, it will look mechanical, like you want to move through the step. But over time, through repetition, it will become automatic. Your choice circuit becomes your default instead of your comfort circuit. Just like it is for those top students. And you too. It will become like that for you once you begin to do it over and over again. And then you become what I like to call motivation enhanced. You can be motivated, or you do need to be motivated to study. You study because you have decided to, not because you feel like it, not because there is pressure, because that is who you are right now. Now, I've given you the framework why motivation dependence is a trap, how the 3 circuits work, and the 4 activation sequences to switch from the comfort of pressure circuit to the choice circuit. In the next video coming up on this channel, I will be walking through 3 major techniques required for retention and understanding and giving the best grades possible within the shortest period of time. So subscribe and hit the notification bell to not miss any of the video coming up on this channel. I'll see you in the next video.